In this video, we are going to talk about food vs insects. So before starting this video, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for future updates. Recently, attention has been drawn to the fact that increasing the consumption of edible insects may positively impact the state of the natural environment and reduce the problem of malnutrition in large parts of society. Indeed, insects are seen as an alternative to traditional meat products, primarily meat. This article aimed to compare the nutritional value of edible insects and meat. Based on a literature review, data on the nutritional value of 7 commercially available edible insect species were collected and collated. There was a comparison of 100 grams of edible insects with 100 grams of meat, fresh weight. In addition, the atherogenic index, thrombogenic index, the hypocholesterolemic and hypercholesterolemic ratio, and the nutritional quality index were calculated. It was found that both meat and insects are rich in nutrients, including those considered essential for the proper development and functioning of the human body. At the same time, it has been shown that the content of individual nutrients in both insects and meat varies significantly. Alternative protein sources are urgently required as the available land area is not sufficient to satisfy the growing demand for meat. Insects have a high potential of becoming a new sector in the food and feed industry, mainly because of the many environmental benefits when compared to meat production. This will be outlined in the book, as well as the whole process from rearing to marketing. The rearing involves large-scale and small-scale production, facility design, the management of diseases, and how to assure that the insects will be of high quality. Genetics. The nutrient content of insects will be discussed and how this is influenced by life stage, diet, the environment, and processing. Technological processing requires decontamination, preservation, and ensuring microbial safety. The prevention of health risks, egg allergies, will be discussed, as well as labeling, certification, and legislative frameworks. Additional issues are insect welfare, the creation of an enabling environment, how to deal with consumers, gastronomy, and marketing strategies. Examples of production systems will be given both from the tropics, palm weevils, grasshoppers, crickets, and from temperate zones, black soldier flies and house flies as feed and mealworms and crickets as food. Feed conversion ratio. Feed conversion ratios, FCRs, are particularly important as an increased demand for meat will cause a more than proportional demand for grain and high-protein feeds. FCRs vary widely depending on the class of animal and the production practices used to produce the meat. However, a very rough calculation from average figures can be made. From long-term statistics for the United States, the following FCRs were given: 2.5 for chicken, 5 for pork, and 10 for beef, 134. There are few studies on FCRs for edible insects. Different FCR values are given for Achea domesticus, 0.9 to 1.1 depending on the diet composition, 101, and 1.7 for fresh weight, 31. The difference is probably due to longer feeding and later harvesting. The second study, 21 days versus 45 days. The proportion of edible weight differs considerably between conventional livestock and insects. The percentage of edible weight for chicken, 58, and pork, both 55% of live weight, is higher than that for beef, 40%, 135. Crickets in the last nymphal stage can be eaten whole, but when eaten as a snack, some prefer that legs, 17% of total weight, be removed, and because the chitinous exoskeleton, 3%, is indigestible, the percentage edible weight amounts to 80%, 101. Using the aforementioned figures, the FCR of edible weight can be calculated, showing crickets to be twice as efficient as chickens, 4 times more efficient than pigs, and 12 times more than cattle. These calculations can also be made for protein efficiency. That would be helpful if the protein content was very different for livestock and crickets, but it is not. Poultry, pork, and beef show values of 200, 150, and 190 grams protein per kilogram edible weight, respectively 58, whereas for cricket nymphs in adults, these figures are 154 and 205 grams, respectively 55. It is most likely that crickets convert feed more efficiently to body mass than do conventional livestock because insects are poikilothermic and their growth stages do not invest metabolic energy in maintaining a constant body temperature above ambient values. Other insect species are therefore likely to show similar efficiencies. Equivalent amounts of quality protein. A recent study showed that insects offer between 9.96 and 35.2 grams of protein per 100 grams, compared with between 16.8 and 20.6 grams for meat. Of course, not all insect protein is created equal. For instance, crickets, certain ant species, and mealworms are known to be protein and calorie-dense stars in the insect consumption world. One easy way of integrating insect protein into your diet would be through cricket protein powder, used in the place of your typical protein supplement powder. Insects require less care and upkeep than livestock. The argument that insects are a good source of protein is compounded by the fact that their production uses considerably less resources, less land, less feed, less water, less transport fuel, and less human labor than animal livestock, while possessing a much smaller carbon footprint. Plants, on the other hand, do not produce greenhouse gases. However, they do require land and machinery use, water use, manufacturing, processing, and transportation, among other matters, all during which carbon is emitted. It's critical to consider how to lower our carbon footprint and make a difference in climate change through our understanding of how food goes from the source to our mouths. We're actually running out of protein. By 2050, the Earth will have nearly 10 billion people. The demand for protein will exceed our ability to procure it. That's a scary thought. Protein is the workhorse of the human cell. Without it, the body cannot produce some of the essential amino acids we need to live. For our long-term survival, we're going to need to increase our food output and decrease our carbon emissions at the same time. The answer requires real innovation about food production and what we think about food. Insects are part of a virtuous ecocycle. Insects feeding on organic materials from other processes, such as spent grains from brewery operations, thus preventing additional waste from going into landfills and providing added value to the brewery and feed for the insects. This is called circular agriculture, diverting materials from landfills, which produce 20% of the global anthropogenic methane emission and are the second highest producers of greenhouse gas. Using insects as inputs for another function closes the cycle and also positively impacts climate change. This circular value chain will continue to help decrease emissions, as disposed organic materials no longer end up in landfills, producing methane and other harmful gases in the process. You can start small and work your way up. Maybe you're not quite ready to eat an insect. Fair enough, but there are small and meaningful ways to introduce insect proteins into your food chain. How about incorporating it as livestock feed or purchasing animals' proteins that have fed on insects? The environmental impact of the feed that is used in raising these animals is substantial. Approximately 45% of the greenhouse gas emissions in animal production is due to the feed production for the animals to consume. It doesn't have to be that way. Did you know a chicken's natural diet before domestication included insects? Think about that for a moment. Instead of growing corn for animal feed, we could raise chickens and other animals on insect protein. The result is a chicken that tastes the same with an improved environmental impact. Switching to pet food that contains insect protein is an important way you can make a real impact on the environment. Dogs and cats currently consume 1/4 of the meat that is produced in the US. There are so many ways to reduce your carbon footprint in food consumption, and they don't require you to eat crickets for breakfast. But as the saying goes, don't knock the chocolate-covered scorpion until you've tried it. So this is our today's video. If you like our video, don't forget to subscribe to our channel or hit the bell icon. We will meet again with another interesting topic. Till then, stay safe and stay happy.